live on the Trailer Park Symposium morning stream. Good morning. How you doing, man?
Good morning. Very well, thank you.
How do I pronounce your Twitter handle?
Shay, I need to actually speak to someone who is very fluent in Old English, but I'm pretty sure it's 𝕮𝖊𝖆𝖆.
𝕮𝖊𝖆𝖆. I'm calling you Baz the whole episode.
That's fine. I respond to Baz.
Got it. Well, good morning, Baz. Thank you for joining me on this morning stream.
Thank you very much. And like we were just discussing before the live, it's a very morning stream. I didn't know it was your 4 a.m. when we agreed to this.
Well, we already have a guy watching.
Trooper.
So I don't know who's up this early, but good morning, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a Brit.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah, I gotta say, one of the interesting things was podcasting. So you've done it with your YouTube channel. Is looking at the analytics for who watches your content. My biggest country of viewers is not America, but Belgium.
Belgium?
I don't know anyone from Belgium. I can't even name a Twitter mutual from Belgium. So I don't know how my soul got discovered in Belgium, but here we are.
I guess there's plenty of Catholics in Belgium. That's
apparently the Catholics who love white trash people drinking Mike Hard lemonades, apparently.
Yeah, not understanding half the cultural references you make, probably.
Probably not.
No, nice. Well, mine was definitely about at least 85% American, my audience.
Well, any idea what states were the biggest?
No, I don't know if I think it only showed me cities from what I remember. It was definitely New York, and being the biggest one, but I'm sure that's just numbers playing New York's favor, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing else stands out to me from what I could remember. I mean, I can just look right now, but
let's do an analytics check. Fun. It's always wild when I check it. I'm like, I got two people from Brazil, several from Belgium, a few in Texas. No Canadians, so that's positive. I had one Canadian, but it was Settler. Settler's a man. I had him watch one time, I think. So I think that's good to know. It probably the episode he was on, to be fair.
Oh, right. Well, my analytics are very interesting now. They're very different from when I was active. 31% of views were from America, and that's by far and away the biggest majority. The next after that, UK 4.4%, then Canada 1.6%, then Greece 0.9%. I don't know how only 31% have come from America when everything else is like 0.2%. That's confusing me, but there we are.
So if I remember correctly, you went from Libertarian to Stoic to Anglican to Catholic on your channel. Is that correct?
Yeah, some things lasted longer than others. I still can. I don't know if this will cause an interesting discussion, but I definitely still am a libertarian. But in terms of from content, I went from doing a lot of libertarian legal theory and economics to this just coinciding with, I think, me reading onto a new level of philosophy, because I'd always liked Stoicism long before I liked libertarianism, and just thought, well, I'm getting more into general philosophy than economics and political theory right now. So I went back to what I knew best, which was Stoicism. That's something that I can confidently talk about, and did that for, I think it only lasted for one video, and I said I was going to make a series out of it. I did that a lot. I was very, 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 very good at making plans and never following through on them.
Dude, I feel you. I have 4 lives. I have 4 series on this channel. I'm supposed to be like, well, I'm going to read this entire book with different guests. And then like 2 episodes in, I'm like, this book is too boring. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it.
You're reading, is it Copleston's History of Philosophy?
No, we're doing Craig's History of Philosophy.
Oh, okay.
I have Copleston's. I'm going to read it as like supplementary for this, but it's too big and too detailed to do a live stream.
I've got a close online friend that I should actually be meeting in person this month or the next, who's read it all the way through, and it sounds like I'd rather pull my fingernails out with some pliers than read it. There we are.
He has incredible chapters. Like he has a chapter on Bonaventure where he explains Bonaventure's argument for God, which he broke down to God's existence is self-evident to the senses. Therefore, if you don't believe in him, something's wrong with you internally. We have to figure out what that is. But I'm like, so true, Keg. So true.
Like it.
But
Mental illness.
Carpenter's fun. You ever watch his debate with Bertrand Russell on BBC?
No, I've heard about it.
Oh, it's very good. As much as I can't stand Bertrand Russell, it's a very good debate.
To that, I can't stand him either, and that's why I haven't tried to listen to it.
It is nice to see that Bertrand Russell in the debate just says, "Well, we can't agree because I refuse to accept your definition." And Carpenter's like, "Then let's move on to a new topic." And he just moves on to the next argument,
Wow.
which is I really like. I don't know. And when I read Carpenter, he has that I'll use Chinese example, the Tao Te Ching philosophy thing, where it's like you are like the willow in the wind that doesn't get knocked down because it moves with the wind. He had that kind of style, it seemed like, where it's like, oh, you don't like this one? Well, we'll move to this argument. Oh, you don't like that? We'll move to this argument. No matter which way you want to go, I have you as an argument.
It's the Ben Shapiro of a previous age.
Only not as Quince.
No, I was joking, but there we are.
Okay.
Well, in terms of moving around what I did with content, so I did, after doing a bit more of philosophy, I think I then made a video on neo-reactionaryism. Got into that through Moldbug, who certainly quite liked Hopper, but now at the minute we have Oram McIntyre, who's leading the way in this sphere, and he loves Hopper, which is great. And speaking of making plans that I don't follow through on, I am very much considering going back to making videos now. Now that I'm settled in one place, whereas I was moving around shitloads before. My wedding is out of the way, which was consuming all of my free time for 6 months at least.
And it's good.
Yeah, and it paid off. The whole thing was perfect. But now I'm realizing, I have time again. What should I do with this time? What did I like doing with my time before I lost it? And it was just utter rambling and people listening to me, and I'm going, oh, okay, maybe there is something to this. So then so maybe on neo-reactionaryism, and that was again around the time I was getting more into philosophy and politics rather than libertarian political theory, reading more of the elite school, and feeling like I had a general actual understanding of politics beyond just coming up with laws, which is really all libertarianism can do. And looking more into the dynamics of what is power, why do people want it, how do they employ it, this sort of thing. If you don't understand that, your theory is just practically useless because you'll never be able to apply it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's when my book was libertarianism, when I could begin to recognize what that power is, politically speaking. I still have my libertarian friends. I still have a good respect for Hopper, even though he's a Kantian.
That's the big problem, of course. I
did have a major drop off in my respect, because I once emailed Hopper and asked him, what is the proper foundations for Austrian economics? Was it a Kantianism, or was it School of Salamanca Thomism? And he emailed back and said, I don't think that distinction matters. I'm like, okay, well, that's just a Kantian speaking.
Yeah, that's very true. Wow. Well, yeah, he gave you an answer then. And that is the problem. And of course, his what on earth is it called? Christ, what's his
argumentation ethics?
That's it. Yes. I'm still convinced by it, but I understand it's a Kantian principle, and that makes me very uncomfortable with it. But on its face, I'm yet to see a very simple, concrete reason. No, this is why something like that does not work. I think I've seen practical reasons why.
Yeah.
Not so much logical reasons.
And I would say I don't have a logical argument against it, but when you can have a practical example when it wouldn't work, you don't really need a logical debunking of it. I can just I'm trying to think, like, empirically, if I observe something works one way, I'm like, well, metaphysically it shouldn't work that way. I have to just assume my metaphysics are incorrect because the empirical reality before my eyes is so infinite now, so I have to just rework the metaphysics to account for the empirical reality. Kind of like Aristotle, there is metaphysics off of physical observations.
But however, just specifically on argumentation ethics now, I've only seen hypothetical, practical critiques of it.
Yeah.
Not anything that's actually played out. So I don't know if you can call that empirical.
That is true.
In fact, you can't.
I guess we call that Prater wheel. Like I think I would fall into the category of Prater wheel from Haitan and his many levels of abstractions for epistemology.
Oh, definitely.
But
That's a lot to try and figure out, but also at the same time where, again, I got more into epistemology and metaphysics, like you say. And you say that's when you broke with libertarianism. I say that's when I broke with anarchism, and I made a Substack about this, and I wanted to straight off the bat say, yes, this is more of a semantic issue than anything, but semantics are extremely important. Words are the only way we can communicate reality to each other beyond a basic, oh, there's a predator, let me warn my pack. And so words really, really matter. And I believe that a society should be hierarchical and should have a ruler. And if you are an anarchist, you don't believe in arcs, ARCH, ruler. And I say, well, no, I do. I do certainly believe in a typical Hoppian society or covenantal community, which we know what that entails. But I do believe it should be led by one person. And this person can change hereditarily, like a typical hereditary monarch, or by a council, like the Witan of the old Anglo-Saxon kings. But regardless, if you have a human society without a single leader, you're asking for chaos, pure and simple. And a ruler is simply a political leader, someone who makes decisions politically for a collective. If you think that shouldn't exist, I'm sorry, but your politics is completely fucking wrong. And of course, you can have republics. They can exist and they can prosper for quite a while, but they normally prosper through conquest and usury, such as Venice. But when you have straight up democratic republics, such as Athens, I don't need to tell white trash Socrates the problems with that. And so I don't call myself an anarchist, but if someone wants to call me an anarcho-capitalist, I won't cry about it, because it does get across a lot of the political points that I still believe in. And so I am still a libertarian. I am still a Hoppian. I understand that there are weaknesses in these positions, and I am yet to see those weaknesses like completely smashed. And so until I do, I feel like I'm more than happy to keep going with it. And then, of course, in these videos then came Christianity, and I cringe so hard when I look back on my reasons why, when I tried to discuss the 5 ways. I got it completely fucking wrong. I did the typical like amateur understanding of it, which isn't right, and it's very
let me see if I can guess what your mistake was. Was it viewing it in a linear cost series of events and not a hierarchical series of events? Okay,
absolutely.
I think everyone falls into that, because we've been ruined by the Kalam. We've been ruined by the Kalam cosmological argument, where we assume everything is the Kalam.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. I thought, oh well, this is. I've heard. I'm really not good with terms and names.
William Lane Craig.
Yes. When you convert to Christianity anywhere in the Western world, you're going to come across William Lane Craig if you're doing it through a philosophical route, at least. So I heard the Kalam argument, and then I heard St. Thomas's 5 ways, and thought, oh well, this is just a better version of that. It's that with less loose ends, but it's not. But I can't remember the name of the different kinds of causation. But you're right; it's linear and hierarchical is the way to understand it. So of course, I made arguments with a linear chain of causation, linear chain of causation.
They both work. It's just the linear has more of a burden of proof, because we have to do linear time and theory of time and beginning of the universe. Or how
exactly. I think that. It's also potentially falsifiable, which I think then means it's not a logical argument, quite simply. But then the hierarchical one is not falsifiable. It's logic. And now that I understand that, it's only helped me in my conviction of faith, really, learning more about it, which is great. But it is sad that my introduction to an audience that was probably primarily atheistic, because I was, didn't get a steel man introduction to this philosophy, and that haunts me a little bit. And at that time, I also said I don't want to become Catholic. So I'm currently in the Church of England, and wanted to go into Anglo-Catholicism, which people might understand a lot more from Calvin Robinson these days. There's finally an Anglo-Catholic with some sort of zeitgeist presence. But that didn't. I don't think I even actually went to a single Anglo-Catholic parish when I made that video. I stayed in a middle way church, not for very long at all, and then started going to mass and speaking to the priest there, who then confirmed me.
Nice.
It was so funny, my entire conversion, saying to especially my then girlfriend, then fiance, now wife, no, don't worry, I'm not going to become Catholic. That's really hard. I know that things would be so different in our life that no, I don't think I want to do that. And I think from the very moment I said that, I kind of knew I was fighting against the inevitable, but almost tried to like will that into reality. I could always see that no, it is inevitable that this is where I'm going to end up. I'm going to do my best to make sure it doesn't happen. And I don't know why.
It's very rare to see a serious Anglican, because I feel like all serious Anglicans end up becoming Catholic.
Yeah, and you can especially find them online, but most of them are American and Episcopalian rather than Church of England.
Yeah, Episcopalians don't count as anything. I don't count Episcopalians as the worst thing. To me, Anglicanism is directly tied to England and British and stuff. And like, if you're American, you have no connection there. It's like seeing a guy seeing an American wear a red coat. You know, it's just not appropriate.
Yeah, well, maybe, but I think it should.
And then as American,
culturally, absolutely. I don't think it. I think it should always be remembered how significant American culture is founded in, well, the English, even though, of course, Germans and French and Irish made up a lot of the country as well.
Yeah.
It's not something entirely foreign, and that's why I find it very funny how quite early on American society called it the Episcopalian Church, because you can't call it Anglicans. We're not English, when the vast majority of them fucking were, just like a couple generations removed. This might take us down way too big of a tangent, but I think that is the fatal disease of America. The absolute hatred of the old world and the refusal to acknowledge what the old world got right, which was hierarchical societies, and what America got wrong, which was egalitarianism from the word go. But let's maybe keep that for another time.
Yeah, when it comes to the topic of Americanism, there's so much that can be said.
And it really is.
I've decided I hate that I'm going to quote a Parjeet, but I'm going to quote Gandhi on Western civilization. When asked about it, he goes, I think it's a very good idea.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the best I could. If you want anything longer than that, turns into a 5-hour conversation.
Yeah, and I love talking to Catholic Americans like yourself, because there's no other kind of American who gets it in that sense. You just get the boomer propaganda regurgitated again and again and again and again. No, we had to do XYZ because Europe were fighting wars and killing each other. Oh, it's a fucking good thing America never did that, isn't it?
Yeah. The only justified, in my opinion, only justified American war was the very first one, the Barbary Wars.
Really? Why is that?
Because they were against Muslims.
Fair enough.
I've come to the political take that no, whatever fights Muslims is okay with me. I'm big on the they said we should wipe them off. We should wipe them off the face of the earth.
Oh well, fair enough. Consistent.
That's also why I tweeted out yesterday. I got End Democracy said it was a bait post, but I said Islam disproves argumentation ethics.
Oh wow! I'm not surprised you said that.
Which is, I loved it. It was clearly a bait post. He's a great guy. If you ever write chapter 2 of his book, he's supposed to come on and do a live reading of it. But the way he writes is probably be at 40 years. Yeah,
we're all eagerly waiting. I love. Anyway, yeah. I love that guy and what he does.
Yeah.
So we're basically at the end of my YouTube journey there. What we're discussing. Left it by giving a really shit argument for God's reality, and then saying I'm not going to be Catholic, and then came to understand I was completely wrong in that philosophy and ended up becoming Catholic. And I think that's when I stopped making videos. It was around the time where I was approaching the end of my university studies, so very wrapped up in writing a dissertation, And this is when the time that I had so much of in university just came to an end. All had to be devoted to getting a dissertation, then graduating, and then moving house. 2 months later, moving house again, finding a job in this other house. 6 months after moving somewhere else, which is where I am now. And then after we moved in, plan for the wedding, and then getting married, and now here we are, and things are finally stable again.
So you have free time until you have kids. That's like I'm just going to predict.
Yeah, and who knows how fast that clock is ticking. We'll have to see.
See. Well, you mentioned that earlier. Regretting how your last video was like a falsifiable proof for God. I think that's something that is a very weird feeling as podcasters or content creators. Is you begin to have more of a I'm not sure what the word I'll use here for it, but you look back at your old videos and see anything wrong with them, like, oh man, I hope I didn't fuck somebody up with that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we do have we are essentially part of the media, and I spend so much time learning about the foundations of the media and how it works within, quote unquote, the cathedral in the modern status quo. And it's funny to think that by making content in this way, you are a piece of media in a sense, and that means you do have influence over people.
Yeah.
And if that is used incorrectly, it is something that weighs on me for sure.
I realized that when I had when the first person texted me, a product texted me and said, "Hey, you convinced me praying to the saints isn't bad," or another guy texted me and said, "Hey, I'm converting to consultant because of your channel." That's when I realized, oh shit, people actually listen to me. I need to double check. I rewatched every single. I remember watch everything I ever made and make sure I didn't say anything stupid.
Yeah,
I did say a lot of stupid things.
Well, of course, yeah. And we all have, and that's the poison chalice, is that this gets immortalized. Of course, we could delete the videos or whatever, but I don't know. There's some sort of staying power which just talking to someone at the pub doesn't have. And what I found with the difference between making libertarian or uncategorized content, so like neo-reactionary Catholic content, is in making libertarian content, I don't think I was changing many people's minds. I think I was just confirming biases that people already had. Whereas when you introduce a bombshell-like religion into a community like that, who never thinks about it and is probably passively hostile towards it, I think that really highlighted to me the difference that can be made in people who do engage with it. And I have been talking constantly with many people who have gone on to convert, most of which to Catholicism, a few reverts to Eastern Orthodoxy, who come from Slavic families, people getting confirmed and baptized and all sorts of fantastic things, and realizing how different that process was in engaging like in a Discord community with people that joined to ask me questions. Very, very, very different from a Discord community where we all just go in and talk about how much we already hate the government, rather than come in and say, you know what, guys, I think this government thing, I've got a few questions. It was never that way at all. And I think so. Then going to, like I say, throwing something disrupting into the mix and ending up actually changing people's minds. Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird thing to reflect on.
It's very weird when you for several people, you become the guy who has the answers, and it's like, I'm just now learning this shit myself. Like I people DM me that's the art questions, and I'm like, dude, I am 25 years old. I just now reading Aquinas. Give me a minute.
Yeah, I've only got one volume of the Summa. I've not come close to finishing it. And I'm not an authority.
It's just in the end of like, well, give me 20 minutes to do research, and it's like they could have done the same research themselves, but now I'm doing it for them, which is really, I don't know. It's weird. I had a guy ask me yesterday. I was like, was Jesus a boobs or an ass man?
Oh, for fuck's sake!
And I generally had to think about that for a while. Like, well, let's think about this. If he entered into our sins so he could conquer our sins, God chose to be tempted by our sins so he could conquer our sins, then I think that would make saying both, because man is both. Therefore, God was both boobs and ass man, because then he could conquer temptation from both boobs and ass. So okay,
really?
he was.
You don't think that ass leads itself in some way to sodomy and boobs do not, so therefore they're better?
Well, that's always been my argument for why boobs are better than ass. But like I'm working about like boobs are ass and guys are ass. I'm like, you're a faggot. I'm sorry.
Well, thanks, Caleb. I thought I'd never have to discuss this again, but you fixed that for me.
That's what we're here for.
The amount of times when I did
then...
quite a few live stream Q&As, and the amount of fucking times that question got asked, I've not been asked it since then, and here it is back in my life.
Happy to bring it back. This is the White Trash channel, man. We bounce from theology to philosophy to boobs or ass.
Nice. Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of know what to expect.
But it is and once you realize you're in that position, you begin to like answering people's questions and being a source of authority. You begin to like, I really need to crack down and study.
Yeah.
More than once, like I went back and found a video I did. I was because for a while I was like the Catholic libertarian guy people could get on their podcast when I couldn't get Tom Woods. And so I'd come on and be like, well, here's how it could work together, and here's subsidiary principles and all this stuff. And they'd ask me all these questions about God. I'm like, well, here's what I understand so far about God's connection to time. And like, I'm 17, I'm 19 years old. Don't ask me fucking shit about that one. But I mean, I went back and looked and like, okay, I phrased it in a really dumb way, but I'm not incorrect. I've just phrased it in a weird like window block view thing, but it worked. So I was happy to see that it worked.
But that is my. When was the last time we like did this together? It must have been.
We tried to do. Yeah, I think we've maybe more recently than that. We tried to have you and I tried to have you and Haz on for a reaction to Stephen Colbert and the British monarchy, but your internet was crap, and you were living above a tavern, a bar or something. Had music going on.
Lived above a shitty old pub, and yeah, there was every Friday live music, and the internet was fucking diabolical.
So I'm glad they have good internet now.
Yeah, it's pretty good, and I live in a very quiet place, which I'm very happy about.
Nice,
but,
nice.
What has been going on with you? Give me Caleb life update since we last properly spoke.
A lot more reading. I've read 26 books so far this year.
No, what? Wait, this year? You don't mean 2024, do you?
Yeah, in 2024, I've read 26 books.
What the fuck are you on about?
I'm in a reading contest with my friend David to see who can read more books this year. And so is
he anywhere close?
I think he's at 9.
Well, that's impressive. What the hell's 26?
A lot of short books by saints.
Okay.
Well, my hour and a half long audiobooks and then knocking them out, or 30 page or 110 page books and just knocking them out in a setting,
Well, surely there's a point where it's not a book and it's a pamphlet.
Yeah, but we didn't draw that distinction when we made the rules, and so I kind of loopholed my way in.
Oh wow, very Jewish of you.
It very much is. No, we agreed early on we can't count comic books because that was my other loophole. But yeah, just been reading. I'm trying to do a deep dive on the Gospel of John. More not just the theology, but the historicity of it, because dealing with Muslims, they wanted to throw out and here's why you can't trust John, therefore we can't trust the Trinity because it's later with this. I'm like, you are quoting people who denied the existence of Jesus. Shut up.
Yeah, well, and there's a good point. It's an interesting discussion when people say that Muslims venerate Jesus when they believe there was a prophet with a name similar to him in a similar place and a similar time, but just to say, anything that anyone ever said that he said is a corruption if I don't agree with it, but the stuff I do agree with, that's fine.
It's very
nonsense.
It's very hypocritical, and it seems epistemology kind of falls similar to the ethics and divine command theory, where it's like, if Allah says do it, it must be good.
Yep.
So if Allah says murder 50 babies, it's good. Therefore, if it agrees with Islam, it's good. If it disagrees, it's just fake. And so I can just have a very relative epistemology to whatever agrees my predetermined ideals.
Yeah. And I think you're
ridiculous.
I mean, this is why you're on the right sort of lines by saying that their existence could contradict argumentation ethics, because they clearly. I mean, there's something to learn about. I think, let's call it Machiavellian tactics, how they will just say, everything I say is true, everything you say is a lie if it disagrees with me, and I'm just going to constantly repeat that until you believe it's true. I mean, it's a valid tactic. It's just, well, that it's being used for an evil purpose.
Yeah. It's No, I made this point. This is the point that's a tough issue but a tough bridge to cross. Is Islam believes you could Muslims can fake conversion to other religions if Islam is the weaker power. So you could never really trust in Islamic convert because you can't verify a falsified Muslim. You can't verify if they actually are legitimately converting. They can be baptized. I mean, this happened in the Crusades. There would be cities captured by Christians that were Islam. For like 2 generations, the people became Christian, and the moment there were Muslims outside the gates around the city, the Muslims inside turned back to be Muslim and attacked all the Christians.
Well, it's perfect timing you bring this up. This isn't something that happened in Crusades. It's something that's literally happening today, where you might not have seen it, but in England recently, there's been an acid attack committed by an Afghan asylum seeker who said he'd converted to Christianity in order to get asylum, and all the people who know him have said he's a faithful Muslim. But they say that in the way like he wouldn't do something like this. He's a faithful Muslim. He's a good guy, and it's fucking insane that this is a tactic that is in the Quran, is permissible, and we've seen it time and time again. And our legal system says, "Oh well, if they do it, then we're going to protect them." Fucking mental. So anytime there's a Muslim terrorist attack here, some sort of article comes out which says they were at least considering converting to Christianity. Fucking bullshit. They in their very book, which now thankfully everyone can read. I mean, you can say the same thing for the Talmud, but it says it right there. This is the tactic they're going to use, and every time they go, "Oh well, I guess they must be telling the truth."
There's so much to be said about Islam, with dubious apologetics, the really weird divine command theory, historically speaking, with the jizya payments, the blood payments from Christians, the Arabic era of piracy and slavery across the Mediterranean. There's so much there that I don't think, if your ideology can't protect you against Islamic enforcers, I don't think it's worthwhile. Well, I think that's proven historically speaking. They've been the biggest sword on the side of the West for most of history. It's the West. Yeah,
the biggest. I wouldn't call this an argument against libertarianism. I call it an argument against libertarians. But whoever just wants to be left alone is always going to lose to the group that wants to win. And you're absolutely right. They're a group that want to win, and they'll do anything to win.
Yeah.
We don't need any more proof than what they've said in their own words and what they've done for over 1,000 years. And if you think that you can have some sort of multicultural society with that, I've met absolutely fantastic Muslims, but when you speak to them on tough issues like this, they go very sort of like Catholics for choice, almost like, oh yeah, the Quran said this, and the learning schools, I can't remember the names of them, but they have like almost pontifical authorities. That might be no, because that's sort of like the Talmud, isn't it? Those are like
that might be
sayings of people in authority, but there are still currently existing institutions of like learning and theology who sort of make proclamations, almost in like a Vatican document. But he'll just say, yeah, I don't really agree with the Quran on that bit, and I don't agree with the institutions on this bit, and I don't agree with it on that bit. It's clearly just another religious person captured by liberalism.
I have an issue with that as well, because it's like either they're captured by liberalism when it's this awful, it's still awful, or they're just saying that because they still believe it, but they don't want to openly believe it.
Well, if it's you can't fucking trust them.
Exactly, and that's what really sucks about it. It's like,
how could you live with like next door to someone who follows a principle where you say, right, I believe you're a nice person, but from your own fucking principles, I can never trust you.
Yeah,
we're supposed to just go, oh well, they're just as English or American as anyone else. Let them all in. Something's gone wrong. How could that have happened? Well, we just need to keep doing what we've been doing.
I think it was Belloc who had that great quote that Islam is like Islam is the enemy of the West, and right now the powers. I'm not remember the exact quote, but he was like 100 years ago, like, if we don't watch out, there's gonna be another sweat. There always will be a sweat. I recently found out a bunch of the Protestant quotes about Muslims, like from the Protestant reformers. John Calvin himself said the Pope and Muhammad are two horns of the Antichrist.
Fuck yeah.
And during several attacks of Muslims would attack Christian nations, Protestants often joined their side.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do know. I don't know about Protestants, but I do know about certain other Abrahamic communities in particularly Moorish Spain, which helped the Muslims at time and time again.
Did you see that Gavin? Did you see that Gavin McGinnis debate recently when he was
I saw him walk off. I didn't watch any of the debate, but it was hilarious.
Dude, it's just. I loved it. I love Gavin. Even when he's
I don't know much about the guy at all, but after watching that, I was like, oh, he fucking gets it. In a particular way.
He later said he would defend Jewish people from anti-Semitism, but said my debate partner did not realize he was debating with a Catholic Islamophobe.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Is great.
Yeah, that's hilarious. The funniest thing about that as well was the Jewish guy seething on Twitter afterwards and making himself just look more fucking pathetic.
Tagging the Pope for a debate and then tagging the Pope.
Honestly. Literally, it's like just teacher. Like the fucking Pope's gonna log onto Twitter and say, "Oh, I'm really sorry you've had to go through this. I'm really sorry that you're a fucking idiot."
I think I'm gonna start doing that for every position I take. I'm gonna start tagging the Pope.
Yeah, or when you debate Muslims, just start like tagging muftis or something. It's like he's being mean to me. I said he should be killed and exterminated, but then he was mean.
It's. I would think another interesting thing is like watching Jewish apologetics. What's oftentimes not even apologetics for Judaism; it's just for Jews.
Yeah, well, of course, of course it is, and that's why I think it's focusing on the Talmud isn't anywhere near as important as focusing on the fact that there are no more Israelites. They don't exist. They all converted to Christianity or were killed by the Romans and modern Jews.
Or outbred by the Khazarians.
Exactly. You got the Khazarians, Ashkenazi, and is Hasidic an ethnicity? I can't remember.
It might be.
It might be an ethnicity or it might be like a practice. But regardless, there are no Jewish Israelites left. I think it's quite... You can say that quite confidently. They all converted to Christianity around the time of Christ and the persecution by the Romans, or you have things like the Judean Revolt, where Titus just wiped out hundreds of thousands of them for fighting against the empire when the Christians didn't, and so they survived. So they're a two-pronged attack. Funny enough, what do you know, just after the temple was prophesied to collapse, it does, and there are no more Jewish Israelites left. They all became Christian or died. And you have an ethnocentric religion today where none of the people who follow it are part of the ethnicity that it allows to follow it. Mental.
Have you noticed
that to me is just fucking crazy.
It is. Have you noticed that in their apologetics, they often open it and close it with the same line, "I am a Jew," and they preface everything with that? Because I think they've just been accustomed to being able to use Holocaust guilt to say, "I am a Jew," and everyone's like, "Oh, okay, we have to be careful here on this."
I'm sorry. Yeah,
the Holocaust happened, so I have to be careful. I think the newest generation doesn't give a shit about the Holocaust.
No,
and
really.
I mean, they also probably don't know. Actually, I had a 19-year-old guy. I brought up World War II, and he said, "What was that?"
See, I've heard about this. I've heard people on Twitter, particularly surrounding academic Asian, talking about how Zoomers. It's almost that they are so ignorant that actually it's a good thing for the people who fight against the status quo because they just haven't swallowed the propaganda.
It's great. I was able to explain, the Weimar Republic and the Jewish and Jewish sexology and the Bolsheviks that were coming over the German border. All of that was out in the opposition when I explained World War II to this guy. That was kind of nice.
Incredible. I haven't come close to experiencing it, so I don't know. I still feel very strange about the possibility of this being true. Of course, it's weird. I feel like it's not something I'll completely believe until I see it.
Yeah. Well, Din Z is a weird one because, like, if you ever go on TikTok, I don't know if you're on TikTok or not. I'm on TikTok only because I think it's interesting to observe Din Z's zeitgeist.
I
There was
do
a-
have an account and I only use it to watch dog videos, basically.
If you go to the right circles, this is straight up Nazi propaganda.
Oh man,
Like it
I'm
was
not
saying, like
surprised.
it's pretty awesome because no one can deny the aesthetic qualities of the Nazis.
No, you
The
can't.
SS were beautiful.
Yeah, I discussed this with a Catholic friend the other day when I was around his house, and I think we'd had we shared a bottle of mead, and things were getting interesting. But I said something that I feel is a massive relief in terms of political thought that's come about from me becoming religious, and of course especially Christian, and then of course especially Catholic, is that Martin Luther King and Adolf Hitler can be viewed as humans and not as embodiments of God and the devil. And when you do that, and when you can view it objectively, I felt it was such a weight lifted off my shoulders that you don't have to play this performative game of holding up these figures in such religious terms, and you can just say, no, that's sheer fucking blasphemy. They were men. They were fallen men, just like every other man.
I would say
how do we view what they did in that context, rather than okay, this person's perfect, this person is completely evil. Now we're going to discuss what they did.
I think if you go into Martin Luther King objectively, you can reach the conclusion that he definitely was an awful heretic.
Yeah,
in so many ways. If not just a terrible person, but an awful heretic.
Was he just a complete Unitarian, essentially?
Unitarian, denied that Christ was the son of Unitarian, denied Christ, said he was a good prophet, rejected most Old Testament, like being, not necessarily literal, but adopted a very more like modern scientific view where it's like, oh, it's just, they didn't know what they were talking about.
Yeah.
If you remember, was the Stone Choir guys, which I'm not a huge fan of that podcast because they're too self-serious. They did a great episode on Martin Luther King, a 2-part episode on Martin Luther King.
Okay.
I'm torn on them because they have really good information, but they're too self-serious to be entertaining.
Right. Yeah, I get that. It's part of English humor to be self-deprecating and not take things too seriously. So I definitely vibe with things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, a similar thing with the South.
I can imagine.
We're good at self-deprecating, and not in a cringe. Like, I mean, there are people who self-deprecate too much where it becomes super cringe. Completely. And you have to. I have to be careful because I'll say the first thing that comes to my mind when someone's being like that. I had a coworker say, I'll just go home and kill myself, I guess. And he said it all the time. Then finally I snapped and he yelled, "Oh, fucking do it already. No one would miss you." I had to go like, "Hey, I'm sorry I said that." I said we were having a rough day at work. I said, "No, I told you to do that. Please don't kill yourself. We need you to clock in tomorrow."
Fucking hell, fair enough. I do still, I feel terrible for it. So again, I'm glad you said this, but I do still quite like the odd suicide joke, even though it's a mortal sin. But normally, about myself, I will say something like, if just as a passing joke, if someone's like, "Oh, I really need to get this report from someone," I said, "Well, it's a really good tactic. Just say if you don't get it, you're going to kill yourself." So trust me, it works every time.
The looming threat of suicide.
Yeah, there's someone on Twitter who recently posted something saying like, "I chased these people for a $60 refund for weeks. They didn't give it to me. I said I was going to self-harm if I didn't get it, and what do you know? The same day." There's something I find so funny, especially about being really casual. Like I had another friend at work who's picked up on this humor, and he said he had to give a presentation on Monday. He said, "Oh, I really don't want to do it." I said, "Well, you have to." So, "Well, I don't. If I just go up there, stand in front of everyone, and kill myself." There's something I find so funny about that. Just imagining, the guy who shot himself on live TV because of like a local political scandal. There's something I find hilarious about just imagining myself going up, standing up in front of a bunch of people, just like, "Okay, right, thank you." Just before we begin,
it's got to be the biggest fuck you can give an audience, and by forcing them to be part of your suicide and traumatizing them for life.
Exactly.
Like, we have a joke at the office. We have a joke at the office that if anyone is going to kill themselves, they have to do it in their company office.
Yeah, I think you have to do it completely unexpected. Like no crying, no big show about it. Just boom.
Boom, let's walk in. Good morning, guys. Oh,
morning, guys. Oh, before I forget, bang. I find it so funny, and it's really, really bad of me, I know, but I can't help it.
Yeah, it's this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's like
but
secret
what's
trick to
hilarious,
getting
though,
everything you want.
it is. But what's hilarious? Who's the group that uses it for serious purposes? Call me what I want you to call me, or I'm going to fucking kill myself. Like it's a well-known manipulative, abusive tactic when you're saying it not as a joke. And there's an entire group of nutcases who are allowed to say that with a straight face and get away with it.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I have a bad reaction to those people.
Well, what you just told me about your friend, I can imagine.
I more than want that to go to confess. Like, forgive me, Father. I told a tranny to kill themselves. I need to,
Fucking hell.
These are the we was this one. No, I have dealing with trans people or trans supporting people is like the biggest hurdle for me, because you just want to be straight up honest with someone. You end up being more of an asshole than you need to be.
Yeah,
I had a trans guy come out to me one time. And he said, I now identify as a woman. My new name is Violet. And I said, well, James, you're going to be the ugliest woman in the world.
Oh.
You know,
well, you're not wrong.
I'm not wrong. He was an ugly man.
Isn't that always the way?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so there's a very well-known within dissident rights circles person who is on that sort of thing, let's say. And I've never engaged with this person. I really don't like that. There's an immediate hostility towards them. And because of that, I feel like I don't want to engage. I don't want to be part of a dog pile where it's just call someone a freak and say, no, fuck you, I can't trust a single thing you say. I don't want to approach it that way. I feel like I would only try and talk to this specific person if we could have a one-on-one. Because I do feel so sorry for them, and that anytime they try and do something, they get dogpiled. And in one sense, they have to fucking expect that when they are trying to swim within traditionalist circles and do something so insanely modern and liberal, and then try and talk about how much they hate liberalism. I think that's why they stick around, because they kind of knew what they were signing up for.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't like seeing it. I don't like seeing anything they say be completely dismissed. And in a way, at least, that's never going to make them reconsider this choice. I just feel like, well, what the fuck are you doing at that point? You're just slinging shit and not trying to actually help this person.
Yeah.
And that gets on my nerves a bit. And I think that's why I never actually engage with any trans person online. I don't think you can. Quite simply, it's either going to be in private DMs where the 99% of them are just going to call you all sorts of names and then go cry about it. And the 1% that maybe you actually could have this discussion with, I think you should only do it in person.
Yeah.
No,
we have in a weird time in many ways, but specifically in times of I guess I'll use the word apologetics. I'm trying to evangelize or defend the faith. I can't remember who had said it, but there's some priest who wrote this in like the 80s, and it was like the Christians are not ready for the coming future of sin, because the tried and true method of hate the sin, love the sinner does not work when the modern sinner identifies as a sin.
Yeah, of course.
So it's like whether it's dealing with Muslims who fake conversion or people who identify as the sin. The method of talking, which is I think modern apologetics is being done by boomers who don't have a good grasp. You know, I mean, that's a whole other tangent idea, but it seems like modern Catholic apologetics, their main goal is to be on the Daily Wire, and in doing so, they have really awful political takes, and I don't like viewing people's political takes in a vacuum as separate from everything else, because politics is how you think you should act in the world. Yep. And if your political takes are awful, they are going to affect how you believe you should act in the world with your apologetics and your face. Yep. That's why I'm looking forward to the next wave of apologetics, which seem to be coming from more YouTube people who have who've read 𝕮𝖆𝖆𝖆, who've read Hopper, who've read these more, have a better understanding of sociologically speaking. Like, there's going to be a wave of I think postmodern apologetics, people who've read 𝕮𝖆𝖆𝖆 and are going to end up using this weird like modern understanding of postmodern epistemology to make these arguments. That's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah, interesting. I'm not keeping in touch with. I mean, let's maybe call it dissident apologetics or apologetics from dissidents. But what I am is, of course, dissident political theory, and I'm so glad that there's been such like an allergic reaction to the boomer ideas of society about things like the marketplace of ideas. It feels like I'm always cautious to wonder, like, am I just taking the easy route by saying, no, the vast majority of people are stupid, so therefore democracy makes no sense, and humans are hierarchical, so therefore democracy makes no sense, and everything can be fixed if someone willing to use power takes it. If it feels, I understand how that can seem cowardly. We're almost like, I just go, well, I'm a peasant. I have no power, and so I'm not going to cry about it or pretend that I do or try and get it when I can't. I'm simply just going to wait for the person who does have power that can fix all this. Yeah, that could seem potentially lazy, but I think that's better than being fucking stupid and thinking, well, if I just write another blog or make another video, then if I just get enough people to watch it, then maybe January 6th is going to happen. And this time there's going to be twice as many people, and that means it's going to work.
Guys, we're 5 tweets away from anarchy. Trust me on this. We're 5 tweets away.
We just need more impressions on X, and then we'll have anarcho-capitalism. It's the ridiculous populist democratic mindset, and I think so many people have realized that the more times it's a rigged game, the more times you play it, the weaker you get. And I'm very glad that it seems a lot of people who I think are going to be very important in the political future of the West have realized it's a fucking rigged game and just given up.
We only have about 10 minutes left, and I had 2 more things I wanted to bring up, but I can only bring up one of them, so I'll let you pick. Machiavelli. Talk about Machiavelli for a bit, or Hoppe distancing himself from Bloch, and the Hoppians kind of separated from the Blochians.
Oh, right, okay. I've not read.
One, but they pick.
I've not read Machiavelli. I've read the Elite Theory of Politics, which of course takes a lot of inspiration from him, and I'm not really familiar with what's going on with, especially Walter Bloch. I know he started this. Could you tell me what's happened, and then we'll discuss it?
So from my understanding, because I only read Hoppe's article on LouRockwell.com, Bloch came out with a few other Jewish people about a libertarian Rothbardian case for Israel to have its own state based on like Lockean landowners and principles.
Oh wow! Okay.
And Hoppe was just like, Rothbard would not agree with any of this. This is also all incorrect and wrong. I'm distancing myself from him because this is a dumb argument based on this straight up to separate himself from Hoppe, from Bloch. And it seemed to be like a lot of other Hoppians have done it well. And I think Lou Rockwell himself posting it on his website and making it the main one. That's got to have an impact on the Mises Institute as well.
For sure. I did see that there was lots of stuff going on Lou's website. I feel like I could tell that was where the battleground is. And
I'm all for this. Like I love the Hoppians. I think libertarians are just, if they're all libertarians or Hoppians, I could see myself calling myself a libertarian. But when you have libertarians like Bloch or the trannies on Twitter who, recently got arrested for child pornography.
Yep, that was fucking hell. Well, I mean, yeah, these people, they were Stirnerites and egoists more than like Austro-libertarians, but still, they were very much welcomed in the community because, they like guns. So
that's my biggest critique of libertarians, is that most libertarians are socially outcast nerds, and so they just want to make friends, and they make friends with losers. That's my biggest critique of libertarianism. Yeah, I mean, it's just libertarians, which is
exactly.
If you have an ideology with no followers, then I'm not going to talk about the ideology of followers that only are losers. Then I'm not going to pay attention to it.
No, fair enough, and that's absolutely why I can make lots and lots of critiques about libertarians, not so much about libertarianism, because to me that means Rothbard, Hoppe, Lou Rockwell, Tom Woods, really fantastic intellectuals. That I view them as different from libertarians, the kind of people who go to, I don't know, shit like Porkfest. Never been, but it looks like the cringiest fucking thing ever. And those are the quite normal ones. Those are the ones that probably have families live in New Hampshire. And it's still, you look at it and go, whoa, the fucking circus is in town.
That might have been the most Anglo thing I've ever heard you say. Like, fucking circus is in town. The euphemisms your people can say things. Like, I saw a comedian. It was like, British people can describe anyone as gay with an accent. Like, oh, he leaves the windows open at night.
I also love we can put absolute in front of anything. and it can be just some sort of euphemism. They can call it, "Oh, you absolute microwave." No idea what it means, but kind of do.
Absolutely works.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
There's such a beauty to the way British people can phrase things.
Yeah, I agree, and I really like how it's some sort of like tide is starting to turn in that obviously English people and English culture was a fucking easy punching bag because we're white and we are responsible for most of the greatness in the world. So it was easy to use this as a punching bag, and now people have said, well, no, actually the English language, while it's extremely hard to learn, is one of the most precise that have ever existed and can be unbelievably beautiful because there are so many different options you have to phrase things.
I feel like it's precise speaking wise, but when it comes to like writing and metaphysics, we have one word for five things.
Totally. Yeah.
So, like,
then it's absolutely fucked.
Like, it is the best language for conversation because the emphasis on every word can make a major difference. I mean, but when you try to read it, it's just like, it has its problems.
And I would say it's also probably the best language at conveying qualitative beauty. Because I've only recently properly gone into Shakespeare, and I think I didn't for a while because it's just what you read in high school, and you have no idea what the hell they're on about, but you get told it's good, and you go, well, I don't really see it. But I feel like if you give it the proper respect it deserves, which you won't get from public schooling, it's unbelievable. Literature doesn't make me weep, but that comes so close. I think so much of John of Gaunt's speech from Richard III. Because it's all about England and its downfall from a previously great era, but it's unbelievable. It's quite simply a masterpiece of human language that I don't think could ever be surpassed. And you couldn't write that in another language. But it is absolutely tragic. I know what you mean, to learn about like philosophical principles that were first written about in Greek or Latin, and then going in English. It's so hard to make this make any sense.
I've never read any Shakespeare. I've growing up, there was in town nearby Orlando, there was the Orlando Shakespeare Theater, where they would do live productions of Shakespeare. And I saw Caesar there, and it was beautiful because Brutus was played by Michael Dorn, Worf from Star Trek.
Oh, okay.
And it was beautiful. Like, seeing them plays perform live with really talented actors. I have the appreciation for Shakespeare. I never read them myself, but after watching several of them, I'm like, okay, I understand why these are so good. I was homeschooled, so I was lucky to be able to regularly take those kind of field trips.
Oh, nice. But it's there must be something about Star Trek then, because the John of Gaunt speech I just mentioned in Richard III, the most famous film adaptation of it is Patrick Stewart giving it. So maybe I should watch Star Trek because I've never given it time, but it's clearly a thread.
Star Trek is very Shakespearean, and it's instead it has somewhat of its. What's great about Star Trek is until I think even all the way up to Voyager, from Next Generation DS9 Voyager, they hired predominantly stage actors, and so you have people giving like the more reserved but hyper facial expression like stage acting, and they deliver the lines like that. So it has a sense of gravitas to every scene. Like when if you get a chance after this, look up on what's it called? In the Pale Moonlight from DS9, there's an ending speech from Cisco, and the whole point of the episode is they're trying to get the third party to join their war efforts, and the third party is perfectly happy just to wait it out, watch both sides destroy themselves, and so they try to trick them into joining. So they get a fake data rod, they plant it on the ship so that it will look like the Romulans are. The other guys are going to plan a surprise attack on the Romulans, and the Romulan guy finds out it's a fake and wants to go back and have his side join the Dominion, join the other side. And while he's leaving, his ship blows up, and he finds out one of the guys blew up the ship and killed him. So that the rod, which was a fake, because it's damaged, it would look real now. And so they killed a perfectly innocent man just to get him to join the side. And Cisco attacks the guy for it, said, "You can't kill an innocent person." He goes, "You wanted this. They're going to join the war effort. This is what you wanted." And he had this line like, "I can live with it." He's accepted it's all awful, but I can live with it because it's going to bring him into the war. Wow. And it was a beautiful episode. DS9 is really good at this kind of. It's because a lot of it takes place during a war, and so all the ethics you learn start to proclaim in Next Generation are really put to the test. Where you realize like, there's a great line to show was one of the aliens, Quark, is talking about the humans. He goes, "The same kind, loving people who love their root beer. You take away their sours, you take away their replicators and food, and they will become more bloodthirsty than any animal. And I'm like, very true. There's a very good understanding of like human nature and Essex and Star Trek that I think gets slept on.
Wow. Okay, I'll keep it on my radar. So yeah, I've never tried to give it the time of day, but that sounds.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, sounds. It might need to be quite a bit of reading between the lines, but if you do,
I mean, I've rewatched DS9 I think 9 times. I've watched all 8 seasons at least 9 times. It's one of my favorite shows. It's incredible. Nice. Also, the last thing, the actor who played Cisco, something Avery, I can't remember his first name. He's a jazz musician now instead of an actor, and he was a documentary with William Shatner where he interviewed every Star Trek captain. And he's sitting down at a piano, and the guy who played Cisco is just playing the piano, and he's dressed in all white with black sunglasses. And out of nowhere, William Shatner just stares at him and goes, "What happens when we die?" And the guy playing this Avery just laughs and starts playing the piano, giggling. And William Shatner just looks at the camera and shrugs. What he was playing on the piano was "I Wish I Knew."
Oh wow!
So he's a very clever person. It's like an eccentric genius almost, and it really sees that in his performance. He's just a very talented guy.
Oh, fantastic!
But we've gone for an hour.
Yes, I just thought if you're okay for time, I can have a few more minutes just to actually wrap up the final topic we wanted to discuss.
Okay.
So I was just going to say, it's not surprising that someone like Hopper will, at a time like this, for Walter Block to come out and defend the state of Israel. That's pretty crazy. And it shouldn't be surprising that Hopper is willing to throw punches back at that, because for years now, he's been talking about how really the future of politics lies with the dissident right, and that libertarians should absolutely make sure they have a seat at that table, because if they don't, well, they've only got themselves to blame when, like, say, a massive political shift happens and they are left out. So he's very, very politically savvy and has been in his writings for the last few years, and it's just very good to see that he can do something like right now at a very, very important time in regarding the politics of Israel and the Middle East, to come out and be like, nope, this is we are not having someone take a position like this which is on the side of the regime. Absolutely not associating with that. A very wise move, and I'm very glad to see there's still some sort of like an energy about those group of writers to not go like, well, the Ron Paul phase is over, let's all just hang on by a thread until the next opportunity comes. They're clearly still invigorated and willing to take big stands like that, and I think that's very good.
Yeah, I hope it. I haven't noticed it or not, but I'm not in the libertarian circles on Twitter anymore. But I hope it's led to a lot of infighting and purging in camps, and I really hope I really hope the Hoppians are just taking this as like a call to action to block every Blockian and to block all the more left-leaning libertarians, and not say anything. Well, we all generally agree, and right now we have to just have as many allies as possible. Because it seems like libertarians is hopefully going from as many allies as possible, because we make incremental steps to proper allies. I hope that distinction is being made, because for enemy distinction is crucial, and it seems like libertarians were really bad at putting enemy distinction for a while.
Completely fucking terrible. Completely
I hope
terrible.
That's being corrected.
There was no better group at inviting fifth columns into their movement at all. And again, we've just seen it with these people getting done for child porn. Like, that's just one of a few examples, which is just mental. But if this does create a rift from which Hoppians can essentially win in terms of influence, I guess, in the broader libertarian sphere, thankfully, these people are the best at understanding power, and will be the best at completely, with the hatred of democracy, are happy to completely disenfranchise their enemies within the movement and make them just derelict and unable to do anything. Then they could actually say, right, now we're going to take things forward, and they would take it in the right direction. So I've not seen any sort of drama going down, but I feel like I agree completely.
I've seen a few memes, but that's about it. But I'm not really into circles anymore. I got blocked by a lot of them after the whole, because when I left libertarianism, I was like, I publicly tweeted out I'm no longer libertarian, I got like 120 comments saying like you never really were a libertarian. I'm like,
yeah, of course.
What are you, an evangelical Protestant? Shut up.
Yep.
Dork.
Well, the answer is yes for lots of them. It is religion.
Well, that's come to the end of the episode. Following the tradition of inviting guests back on air when they have a hard time saying no. I want to have you back on eventually for an Explain to Me Like I'm Five Cromwell.
Ooh, okay. That's something I will have to do more research on, but I am very opinionated, so I have somewhere to start.
I know the general broad strokes of English history, but a lot of history I've read, like this is so much there in English history. It's kind of like they just so offhand remarks of Beckett. I'm like, Beckett, the guy from Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, I don't know who this guy is.
I guarantee. Oh, it's amazing. I've never felt such a connection to England and what that means, and in terms of who I am and where I've come from, than when I actually tried to learn about the history. Because no matter how much you think you get the general gist of it, you have not even come close to scratching the surface.
Yeah,
it's remarkable. I can't think there's any better country on earth in terms of a history to delve into.
France would be my objection to that, but that's that's I love Napoleon.
Well, yeah, okay. France is definitely the best contender. Easily, but I think there's just okay. One point I feel like I have to say. I feel like the only reason that's the case is because, unlike Germany, France and England united quite a much longer time ago, and so they have more of a general. There is more of a French history rather than a Bavarian or Prussian history in Germany, and most of Europe was like that. But England and France, and Spain as well, but were unified much more quickly than other European countries.
That's the question I want to ask you now. Do you think when you study history, being that you are British, like with America, when I study European history, English. When I'm with America, when I study European history, I don't really have any like cultural ties to any of it. You know, like when I read American history, I'm obviously tied to the South, so I root for the Confederacy. But like, as an English person, when you read like history of like Napoleon, you are introduced like naturally to side with the English. You know, or are you more objective about your history? Are you not really wanting to be objective because you're just English, so you want to speak English history?
I'm way more. I'm completely objective with it. I will absolutely think that England did something wrong if they did, and I think the reason why that's so easy for me is because I'm very, very happily English, but I am Catholic first, and we haven't been a Catholic country for about 500 years, so it's very easy to look in that period and say, here are all the things you did wrong. Before then, I mean, Catholic Europe was just so politically different from everything that came after it, that when you look at here's what England did or what France did, you're looking at this is what the English king did, or this is what the English or the French king did. And normally they weren't massive monumental changes anyway. But then those sorts of there's a reason why genocide never existed in medieval Europe. That things weren't politically that volatile. And so you didn't have someone you can point to and say, they were terrible. I can't believe they did that. There's nowhere near as many people like that. It's a very peaceful period, quite frankly. And so you don't have people like Cromwell going and massacring the Irish before the Reformation. Completely different. And I think that's why it's so interesting to delve into. It's unlike any history you would have read through normal avenues. Have
you read any of Belloc's History of the Reformation?
Not the Reformation. I have read his History of the Crusades.
That's a good one.
Yeah, but that's it. That's all I've read. If
you get a chance, he has in the Character of the Reformation, he has a chapter on Thomas More, St. Thomas More, which is a really good chapter.
Good.
But yeah,
I'm so glad Thomas More gets the what's the word I'm thinking of? Not recognition, but like the reverence that he deserves from English Catholics. We love him.
Even my Protestant dad watched Man for All Seasons and loves Thomas More and has a picture of him now on his dresser.
Wow, that's incredible.
He's an incredible saint. His story, totally. I love Thomas More. Say Thomas More. But anyway, we've probably gone past the time. Any plugs for where people can find you at?
Really just Twitter. I do have a Substack, but when I lost time for that. And like I say, I'm considering going back to YouTube, in which case I would be doing it on the Anglo Libertarian channel and rebrand it. So find me on Twitter at 𝕮𝖊𝖆𝖉𝖆. Figure out how to spell that. It's interesting. Then Anglo Libertarian YouTube channel, because I might be making a return, but don't quote me on it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on for this chill morning stream. It was a lot of fun, man.
Nice one. Thank you very much for getting up so early for it.
No problem. Everyone, thanks for listening. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Go to the Patreon, join the Discord. Next Friday, this upcoming Friday, I'm having At Will King put on for a live reading of Belloc's chapter of Mohammedanism and the Great Heresies. So make sure you stick around for that. Otherwise, have a good night. Well, good morning.